What is going on, guys? Johnny on the track back with another video here. Coming off what has to be the worst betting loss of my career. I feel like in like any sport, that includes like football, soccer, golf, like everything I've been betting on in my life. Nothing is worse than Martin Truex Jr. dominating that race and right before he gets to the start finish to collect the white flag, which again, when Larson spins Truex takes the white flag, race over, Truex wins, we win money. But instead, it was right before he caught the white. Truex goes into the pit, loses the lead to Denny Hamlin, and Denny uses up on the restart, and that's that. We lose the Truex outright. Now I don't know if I gave the direct Truex outright on the show last week, but that is the bet, my big bet that I ended up going with when it was all said and done. And as a reminder, my full betting card, Johnny on the Track on Action Network at JOTT_podcast on X. Now, the good news is I did bet on a Truex top five, which was an absolute lock. I did bet on Toyota winning manufacturer, which I thought was another absolute lock. I know I talked about on the show how fast I thought Toyota was going to be. So, I guess that sort of made up for it. Not really, though. I still, didn't net last week, and it was so frustrating because we had it right there. It was right there for the taking for a big win with Truex, but you live, you learn, you move on. And with that, we are on to Martinsville this week, another true short track we get on the schedule, short flat, back-to-back weeks. I think a lot of what we saw last week at Richmond we can use for Martinsville. We can also look at another short flat, Phoenix, to help us handicap Martinsville this weekend. Before that, real quick, NASCAR betting preview show. Appreciate the partnership with them. That's how you can listen to the podcast version of this show. And on that podcast feed, make sure you give that a big follow so you can listen to more NASCAR handicappers and bettors on that podcast feed, from trucks to Xfinity to Cup, which is what we do. Give it a follow, and you've got some great content there to get ready for Sunday, for the weekend, really, bets. And of course, the actual NASCAR betting preview show goes live on X Wednesdays, 8 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. They've had some great guests recently. I assume they'll continue to get some great guests. So week after week, you've got just everything in terms of the NASCAR betting preview show has you covered for the weekend in which we bet Martinsville this week. So let's look at Martinsville. A couple of things I wrote down. So first of all, I think on the board, and I'm going to get back up the odds real quick to reference, but I've looked at the odds pretty much throughout the day. And I don't really see any value right now. And it was sort of like that at Richmond. But in terms of like a lot of the big names, I don't really see value right now. So you might want to hold. There is two names that I will throw out that I guess if you did want to make an early bet to get some value, maybe you could look at William Byron at plus 1,100, as well as Alex Bowman, who had a great run going, top five car at Richmond before the Kyle Busch caution kind of screwed his day. But he looked great. He had a great car at Richmond, and he's priced at plus 3,000. I would just say real quick, both these drivers did have subpar results last year at Martinsville, but both of these drivers have won at Martinsville in the past. So, I think you can look at that both ways. I do look at last week, and Bowman had a great car. Byron had a solid car. I wouldn't say great, but solid. His teammates, you look at Chase Elliott, look at Larson, great cars as well as Bowman. So I think there's value on Byron. I definitely think there's value right now on Alex Bowman. I think his number will only go down probably around two. It'll probably close at, or 20 to one rather. It'll probably close out when it's all said and done. So that's what I would say. But other than that, I would wait on a lot of these guys. I'll read some numbers. Hamlin 450, Truex 650, Blaney 7, Larson 750, and Bell 800 are kind of the big name favorites, but I don't know. I wouldn't attack those just yet. So now we kind of look at the betting card as a whole. I think Toyota again. We've seen what they've done this year so far on short flats, Phoenix, Richmond. They've been the class of the field. I think Toyota comes with another great showing this weekend at Martinsville. I look at Hamlin, of course, maybe to go back to back Truex, a little revenge factor with how his race ended at Richmond. I think he's going to be a great bet and a guy to watch. And maybe you could place this now, but I do think it could probably get closer to 15 to 17 to 1. I really like Ty Gibbs this weekend. I think this is a perfect track for Ty Gibbs to get his first win at in the Cup Series. We saw what he did at the Clash. He was aggressive. He was out front for a lot of laps. I think he's learned from maybe some of those mistakes that allowed him not to win the Clash, and we've saw how good he's been, and Toyota's been on short flats so far. I like Ty Gibbs here. I really think I could see him Sunday afternoon. Ty Gibbs winning this race, so he is one to watch. 12 to 1. I don't know. I mean, if you want to take it, take it. But I think we can wait and get it closer to 15 to 17 and really get a good number on Ty Gibbs. Another guy that's been an absolute menace here, and the numbers back it up. He's been actually the fastest in the next gen era at Martinsville. That's Ryan Blaney. I like a top 5 for Blaney. It'll probably come in around even money. That's what the Truex one closed at. So if Blaney, let's say, qualifies 7th, 8th, I think you're going to look at plus money there. Maybe a bad qualifying. Maybe let's say he starts 15th. I think we'll get really good value, but Ryan Blaney has been excellent in the next gen era at Martinsville. Most recently had a win to lock himself into the Final Four. He has been a menace here. And I also like what I saw from Joey Logano last week at Richmond. Had a much better car. Seems like Penske is making some strides towards equaling, if you will, the field with Toyota and Chevy. I think Ford and Penske is starting to show signs like, okay, all right, we're back. We're here to play. Because at the end of the season last year, Blaney was the best car in the playoffs. And I think they can get back to that, still figuring out that dark horse Mustang. So Blaney, top 5. I love this bet. I think he's going to have an excellent weekend. I like the Toyota still a little bit better. That's why I'm going to go with the top 5. But if you want to look at a money line for Blaney, I wouldn't fault that. He's been too good at this track. The other names that I'll throw out in the Stewart-Haas Racing camp, I know people make fun of me a lot for mentioning Ryan Preece, so I'll mention him, I guess, last. But Josh Berry has been really good. We saw what he did at Bristol. We saw what he did last week at Richmond, had a great run. He looks like he's here to contend at short tracks. I like him for a top 10, maybe top 4. Gregson, another guy who has just continued to put together top 15 and top 10 runs. So I like Gregson this week. Chase Briscoe ranks, let me get the number right, 5th in the next gen era at Martinsville. And also going back to that 10 car last year in the fall race, that 10 car led a ton of laps with Eric Almirola. Eric almost ended up winning that race. But just, couldn't hold off a charging Ryan Blaney on that last run there. But Stewart-Haas has shown success. They were really good at Richmond, even though Preece, I think, ended up with like a 25th place finish. He ran top 10 all first stage, had a great car, and then the way things fell, he was kind of out of it with some of the strategy and losing kind of, I think the car was too tight or something, but they're going to have speed. I think you can hammer a lot of those guys for top 10s and maybe top 4s. I think if you want a super, super underdog pick, when it's all said and done, Chase Briscoe. It's 22-1 right now. I don't love that number. I think it can get closer, hopefully, to like 30-1. But he's a guy that always seems to show up at Martinsville in the next gen era. And like I said, Stewart Haas Racing should be pretty darn good. And a lot of those drivers are going to be competing for top tens. And I wouldn't even be surprised if a guy like Josh Berry, maybe even Gregson, are competing for top fives as well. I'm very high on Stewart Haas, but again, I'm going to rank him Toyota in JGR, that camp number one. Then I think probably on par with each other would be Blaney and the Hendrick Chevrolets. And then in that step below, I'm gonna look at those Stewart Haas guys. I think they've had a really good start to the season. And I think that momentum continues at a favorable track for this team. So there it is. Those are the bets I'm going with. Again, if you want to start early with some value, maybe Byron, maybe Bowman. For money lines or some props, maybe top Chevrolet for a guy like Bowman. I think there's definitely value there. And Ty Gibbs is the other guy that I really feel confident betting money line on this weekend. But there it is. Those are the bets. The final betting card that I put out will be on Johnny on the Track on Action Network at JOTT_podcast on Twitter or X. But want to know what you guys think. Definitely put who you're betting on in the comments section below. Give this video a like. It goes a long way for the channel. Also, if you're listening via the podcast from the NASCAR Betting Preview Show, appreciate that. But if you're on YouTube and you're a first-time viewer, watcher, listener, hit that subscribe button. We're getting close to 1,000. Still a little over 200 away, but we're getting there. Hopefully we can get 1,000 subs pretty soon here, and as well as 1,000 views on one of these videos. We were close 2 weeks ago, so let's see if Martinsville we can get it. But there they are. Appreciate you guys watching as always, and we'll see you next time.